Ah, hello everybody. Back for some more with a hot pile of wax. Happy New Year to you all. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays. I hope they were good for you. I hope you got new music to listen to. I hope you got new music for other people to listen to. And I hope everybody's families are doing well. With that being said, the pleasantries out of the way, let's get to the music. First up, I got some Private Press Jazz from 79, Child's Play. This is something that's been on my radar for a while, and I just never got around to getting it. It's cheap. I mean, you can get it for like under 10 bucks. I think this was $8. I mean, then you add shipping, of course, but really good. I'll call it sort of fusiony because it gets a little ethereal at times, a little funky at times, but really it's just, some straight up jazz. but definitely has that fusion sound to it. A couple tracks uses some synthesizer guitar, which gives it a real dreamy quality. It's a sound that my ear really likes. I mean, this is just fabulous. If you like fusion from the 70s, and you got a couple bucks, find yourself a clean copy. They go for pretty cheap. Stray from the Past, Internal Atomics. This is what the new kids on the block call metalcore, but to me, it's just new metal. Band's been around for a while, but this album came out 2019. I was going to say this year, but last year. Excuse me. But, I mean, heavy, detuned guitar, very sort of simplistic but hard-hitting drums, and dirty, bass with screamy, almost rapish kind of vocals. I mean, they call it hardcore, they call it metalcore. To me, to my ear, it just sounds like new metal. So it's a very comforting sound to me. And I mean, I dug it. I couldn't help it. It's almost, you could say, a guilty pleasure buy. And it is on some creamy yellow vinyl. I don't know. I really like it. If it seems like it's your thing as well, give it a shot. Two albums from this band. A couple videos ago, I had gotten this band's first album, which really is the best. But the other two, there were two I got pretty cheap. So I'm talking about Blue Tip. I got Polymer from 2000 and Join Us from 98, I believe. I can't see, it doesn't say. But yes, I believe 98 and 2000. These two albums together were a couple dollars less than the first album, which is entitled Discord number 101. And not to say that they're bad, they're not as good as the first. Let's put it that way. The first album was a bit more gritty. These seem like they're a bit more polished up. They're a bit. This seems like the hardcore got taken out of it, and they're just more of a straight up alternative sound. But I mean, still fantastic albums. Just not as good as the first. I'll put it that way. Nick Mazzarella, if I pronounce that properly, trio, Counterbalance. Live recording. Just kind of a Blue Note era jazz sound to it, but still being pretty damn fresh. I have an album by this band that was on what's that called? It's Chicago label, International Anthem, which is a great label, and it was really good. So I spotted this one. It was like $15 with shipping, pretty cheap as far as vinyl goes nowadays. So I picked it up, and it did not disappoint. Straight up jazz, best way I could put it. Palo Verde. This is an album I found on Bandcamp. I mean, probably 10 years ago. Like, legitimately. Well, no, it came out 2011, so, 8 or 9 years ago. I saw it and I just said, oh, I want it. and I never got around to getting it. And while I was doing some Bandcamp hunting, I came across it, and it was like $5. I was like, "Ooh, it got cheap all of a sudden." So I picked it up. Duo music. You got guitar and you have drums. Simplistic in nature, but it's all about the energy. It is sort of a doom or stoner rock sound to it. You can tell they're using orange amps. It's got that beautiful sound to it. And at times it's sort of slow, chuggy. At times it picks up. Only 4 tracks. Most of the tracks are about, you got a 15-minute, the 11, the 10-minute, and the 7-minute track. So somewhat extended tracks. And it's just good, just hard hitting. You do this when you're listening to it. You know, you put it on, you forget about it. It's great. I'll try to remember, put a Bandcamp link down for that one. Robes in Decline, New York band that I came across and found out about because I've been doing hunting recently for old school like Florida punk. And you know, you digging on Discogs and you come across a band and you click on an artist, it shows you the other bands they're on. One of those artists was in this band. I'm not going to get into the details of who it is or what it was or whatever, but it's the guitarist for this band. And I was like, wow, this is a great album. It is really good. It's not punk. It's kind of that alternative heavy sound, shoegazy at times. Just the vocalist, who's also the bass player, has a great bass tone, this thick, chuggy bass tone. But he has the way he sings is just this dreamy, mellow voice that gives everything that sort of that shoegazy sound, but still with a bit of a heavy, hard edge to it. I just thought this album was great. And it comes on a very pretty, I guess you want to call it spalted purple vinyl. You know, if something catches my fancy, I pick it up, and it was cool because, you know, in a way, it has a Florida roots in Florida music. Even though the band's from New York now, they transplanted, but it is all good. Great shoegazy alternative sound. I'll put a Bandcamp link for that one. I think there's a Bandcamp link for that one too. If I'm pronouncing this properly, Zao Kawana. French 70s from 77. French 70s fusion. That's how I'm going to put it. Progressive fusion. It has this, I don't know how to describe it other than it just has a French sound to it. Kind of that artsy fartsy sound that when you're listening to it, it grooves, but there's more to it. Other than to say it sounds French to me, I really don't know how to explain it better. I'm sorry, I wish I could. This is a U.S. press off of the Peters International label. Brother John Coltrane, 69, Chris, ended up pointing this out. And I was like, ooh, cheap. I'm picking it up. Overall, it's just sort of has a great just groove music. You listen to it and it just grooves. I wish I could describe it better, but I can't. I'm not as articulate as the album is. See what I did there? Excuse me. Some more 70s delicious fusion music. This is from, I don't see a date, but it is from the 70s. Now we go from French to Italian progressive. Il Berecentro, if I'm pronouncing that right. Centro. I don't know. It's Italian. I'm sure I'm killing it. Il Baricentro or Centro, whatever. This is just some great progressive fusion sound, rock with touches of classical in there, with a jazz feel, with some funky grooves. I mean, it was a cheap buy for a genre of music that is near and dear to my heart. So pick it up. That one was also Chris Cole, John Coltrane, 69, also pointed that one out to me. So if you're watching, thank you again. Now we're going back to the 90s. From 1993, Buzz of an what's it called? To Frown. This is a great album. I mean, to me, to my ear, it just sounds very dirty and grungy, like the grungy alternative. But really, a lot of people are going to call it a bit more of like a stoner or sludge metal sound to it. But picture that with vocals that are kind of this, you know, grungy, punky alternative sound where the vocalist is sort of like, he's not doing what a stoner metal like that. No, he's high pitched. He's kind of gurgly. It's almost funny sounding, and to me, it makes a very chuggy stoner album transform into this beautiful grungy piece from the early '90s. So if that gives you any idea of how this sounds, it is fabulous. Really like it. If you know me, I'm in love with that '90s sound. And still going with the '90s. This is '90s bizarre weirdness. I think from '93 or '95. I can't remember. The Minorkid. Look at that cover. That basically says all you need to know. Let them eat. The Minorkid. The best way to describe this is like noise art rock. It's just weird. It has angular sort of left, beats that you think don't really work with a guitar that's kind of doing a, jaggy jangly thing with a bass, which is just chugging along. And at times they come together, and at times it's like they're all playing in different time signatures. Then kind of almost hardcore screamy-ish vocals. I mean, it this whole album tickles my fancy, but I think for many people it might be an acquired taste. 90s alternative that really is a bit more noise or art rock. Check it out, but it might not be for everybody. But me, fucking love that album. Excuse me, God, fighting off a damn cough every year this time of year. Cough, cough, cough. And the last I got to show is a new album came out a couple months ago. Dog Dimension, Area of Outstanding Beauty. This is a German band that is so good. Oh my God. They're calling it an EP. It's only like 30 minutes long. 6 songs. But damn is it good. It sounds like it comes straight out of the 90s. It just has that 90s alternative sound. And you have a female bass player who's also singing, and her voice reminds me of somebody, but I just can't really put my brain to it. But when she sings, it sounds very familiar. And you have a guitarist who really isn't playing like a rhythm guitar. He's almost like this lead guitar or a background noise where he'll do sort of like weird reverby striations, and feedback noises, and sometimes play little like leads. And it almost in the sense of like Primus. The bass and the drum seems to take over, and then the guitar is just, playing along, but not really necessarily playing what the rhythm section is playing. So the rhythm section kind of becomes the lead section in a weird way, kind of like Primus, but they don't sound like Primus. It's not that Primus sound. Really, this album wouldn't surprise me if it came out in 1995, 1993, 1991, whatever, as opposed to 2019 when it does come out. But, really damn good sound with great tone. Oh, the bass sounds so good. And the guitar sounds so good. The bass is this deep, heavy, dirty bass with this great drummer who, at times is playing something that seems very simple, but when you kind of get into it, it's like, oh, his time's a little weird there, And the guitarist, I feel like he's using like a digi-wah, or it's, he has it tuned a little sharp at times, but it all just works. Trio music that sounds bigger than it is, great 90s alternative sound, but, with that modern flair that makes it very fresh. I've obviously talked a lot about this album, so I like it a lot. There will be a Bandcamp link down for it, so check it out. See if you like it. Let me know what you think. And, as always, like I said before, Happy New Year, and until next time.